Your teen requested a ride, but this time not from you. It's through their Uber teen account. You drive your teenager around, a lot, to their friend Jacob's house, their other friend Jake's house, to James's, to Jaden's, to Jalen's, to...
Mom? This is Jake's house, not Jacob's.
Now with an Uber teen account, your teen can request a ride under your supervision. They'll ride with a highly rated driver, and with live trip tracking, you'll follow along the whole ride to their friends' houses that all sound the same. Add your teen to your Uber account today. See app for details.
Bye, Mom.
Immerse yourself in Candy Crush Music Season. Crush the competition for a chance to win 3 epic live music experiences anywhere in the world. Discover the hottest new tracks from Toki Monster, Kimbra, and Lazewo in-game now. Now that sounds sweet. Click or tap the banner to download Candy Crush and play Music Season now. Start September 19th. Open to players 18 older above level 25 in eligible countries. Price cap value and terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
Hey everyone, welcome to Spin, Shuffle, Skip on the There Can Only Be One podcast channel, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Now, you guys know that this is a podcast made in the Great White North, so I take great pride in taking a moment and talking about some of the great music that comes out of Canada. And this one is definitely no exception to the rule because this is a fantastic album. We are talking about Young Beauties and Fools by the Glorious Sons. And I don't know whether he's a young beauty or a fool, but Lyle Robichaud is back on the show to go through this road. Lyle, welcome back, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I think I can be all three. I think you can be all three of those things. But I'm doing really good, Jason. Very excited to be covering this. Glorious Sons are probably my favorite band that started post like 2000 probably. So very, very excited to dive into this one.
And dear listeners, if you're sitting there saying, well, come on, they should qualify for There Could Only Be One. As of recording of this episode, they only have 4 full-length studio albums. So when Lyle mentioned, hey, do you want to do a Glorious Sons album? I'm like, okay, I can buy this one. Now, that being said, if and when they come out with another full-length studio album, you realize that you're going to have to retread on this album when we do the run of the discography. But we got a little bit of time before that, I think.
Yeah, their last album, Glory, just came out quite recently, and usually they do take their time between releases, and their plus minus is absolutely incredible. One of the few bands that I think has every album is a banger. So it'll be a very hard episode to grade as well.
Yeah, you're not looking. Either you're looking forward to it, or you're not looking forward to it, or you're not looking forward to it.
Choosing between this album, The Union, and A War on Everything is going to be a very, very difficult task.
Yeah, but you've been on that show, so you know the pain.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's get into this album. It was released October 13th, 2017. The band at this point is Bretton J. Emmons, Chris Coster, Chris Hewitt, and Adam Paquette. The album peaked at number 16 in Canada. There were 3 singles off of this one. Everything Is All Right hit number 1 on the Canadian alt-rock radio charts. Edge 102.1 in Toronto ranked the song number 3 in their songs of 2017. And the album won the Juno for Rock Album of the Year in 2018. And to quote Deadpool, it's a Juno, it still counts. So we now have to go pick our 3 songs from this album: a spin, a shuffle, and a skip. The spin, of course, is one that it's probably the first song we put on. The shuffle is one that might probably be the second song that we put on. And the skip is, in this case, probably the last song we put on. And I'm not talking about this in order of songs, because this album is really front to back pretty damn awesome.
It's a thrill ride. That's one thing I absolutely love about this band. And if this is maybe your first time ever hearing of the Glorious Sons, do yourself a favor. I have seen them live 3 times. I jumped on this bandwagon when they played Fred Rock in 2013 in Fredericton, New Brunswick, and they were the first act of the day. And they had one CD out that had 4 songs on it. So I joined this party early, but please join it. It's so much fun. This album's a roller coaster ride, firing on all cylinders all the time. Every song kind of flows into the other one. It's so incredible.
Well, there are some spots as far as flow goes. But the funny thing is, as I'm listening to this, I'm like, there is an art to picking the order of songs on an album. Clearly thought was put into this because you're right. It does flow pretty good for the most part. There's one point where I have to sit there and say, maybe not, but still.
I wonder if we're talking about the same point because I have that one note as well.
Yeah, so be curious to see. But now we're going to start with your spin pick. So off this disc, off of Young Beauties and Fools, what is that spin pick?
My spin pick is probably one of my top 15 songs of all time off of this album. Number 1 with a bullet, it's SOS. It's Sawed Off Shotgun. It is the hockey jam to defeat all hockey jams. It is, you're driving in the car and you need to wake yourself up. You put this on, and I guarantee you will just have the rush of energy because the lead singer, Brett, really brings it in this one. Sawed Off Shotgun, SOS.
You know what's funny? As I'm taking a look at my list of songs on my spin, shuffle, and skip picks, none of them were singles. The three singles off this album were Everything Is All Right, Josie, and Sawed Off Shotgun being the third one released. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're good singles. They're good songs. I found myself being dragged more to the ones, and this, I will admit, this is a first listen for me. I thought
it was.
Yeah.
I thought it might have. I'll ask a question I was hoping that would bring up at the end.
This is actually not my first time hearing them in particular, because I actually, if memory serves, I caught them at Rock on the Range as a midday festival act. I just can't remember which year it was because I went down to Columbus a few times for that one. But this is a fantastic album. And while the singles, especially Everything Is All Right, they're familiar to me, they weren't my point of reference for this album. So this was one where I had to literally start from the start and rediscover the album, or at least not rediscover, fully discover the album outside of, heavy radio play singles. And I think
that's awesome, though.
Oh,
sometimes
absolutely.
That's the best way to experience it for the first time, going completely blind.
Yeah, there's a reason why I like the album. Not just this album, but albums in general. Because you do go on a journey. Because you do get a collection of songs. And I recognize that the art of the album in 2024 is starting to go away. And bands and singers are just putting out singles. And I do understand it to a point. Because at that point, you get to be in the news longer. And you can prolong that touring cycle and just have little bits here and then eventually say, oh yeah, those 5 singles we put out, here's 3 more songs and it's an album. And you're out on the road longer because that's where bands make the money. And if bands make the money, then great. That means we get more music and that's okay. So in going through this album, right off the bat, I was hooked. So My Poor Heart is my spin pick off of this one.
You could have picked any single one of them and I wouldn't have blamed you. My Poor Heart is actually one of the ones they open with quite a bit for their concerts because it's instantly recognizable. It's one of the ones that in the fandom a lot of people said maybe should have been one of the singles off of this one and maybe gotten rid of Josie. I disagree, but solid pick. Can't go wrong.
Actually, if I was the one picking the songs, Josie would not have been a single by all means. And Josie, as far as album flow, I think I would have put Josie probably 3 or 4 songs further into the disc.
Yeah.
Because My Poor Heart really does kick this off strong. I mean, yes, it teases you a little bit with that piano intro. And yes, you get that little spot in the middle of the song where it's like, it goes back to the piano solo and then kicks it back in. But you mentioned this album as a roller coaster. Imagine a roller coaster where you start at the top of the roller coaster and the first thing you feel is going down really fast. That's what My Poor Heart is. It's you elevate the speed right off the bat. I freaking love this opening track.
Oh yeah, fantastic. They have a really, really good habit of using piano very well in a lot of their stuff. Their live show is very interesting for the instruments that they bring up there. And yeah, great opening track. Like really, really good pick. Solid pick. I had such a hard time breaking this down into like two choices. It was insane.
Yeah. I mean, at least with the shuffle pick, you can sit there and say, well, I mean, I like a bunch of these songs, so any one of them will do. But for the spin to pick your favorite song off the album, that's tough.
And for the shuffle, I basically like, okay, so what's my second favorite? Because that's how I'm gonna do it, and that's basically how I came to the conclusion. But like I said, if we ever do, there can only be one for this. It is going to be a mind-racking experience for me.
With Amex Platinum, you can really be in the now. Access to Resi Priority Notify. Yes. 4 p.m. checkout with fine hotels and resorts booked through Amex Travel.
We needed this.
And dedicated card member entrances at select events.
Let's go!
Means you can focus on the present moment. That's the powerful backing of American Express. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/withAmex. Card member entrance access not limited to Amex Platinum Card.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Have you ever thought about something new you'd love to learn? As adults, it's easy to get caught up in the daily grind, and sometimes we forget to make time for new experiences. Remember when we were kids and learning was part of everyday life? Now it feels like we're always in work mode. But what if we could tap into that curiosity again? Whether it's learning how to garden, picking up a new language, or finally beating your friend in your fantasy football league, there's so much out there to explore. Therapy can help you reconnect with that childlike sense of wonder. I know for me, therapy has been a great way to learn about myself, set healthy boundaries, and develop positive habits. It's not just for times of crisis. It's about growing and becoming the best version of yourself. I know I am more in tune with both my positive self, which I highlight, and my negative self, which I'm working to minimize since I began working with my BetterHelp therapist. If you've been thinking about starting therapy, BetterHelp is a great option. It's fully online, so it's convenient, and it fits around your schedule. You'll fill out a quick questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist. And if it's not the right fit, you can switch at any time with no extra charge. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/Pantheon today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/Pantheon.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
All right. So for my shuffle pick, I went a little different. And there's one song on this album that as I'm listening to it, I'm like, this feels like it's on the wrong album. But I don't hate it. I actually kind of like it. And that's Come Down.
Oh, wow.
As I'm listening to this, I'm like, that keyboard gives it almost like a new wave 80s vibe. And as a mid-tempo bop, and coming out of Everything Is All Right, this is one of those ones that kind of picks it up a little bit. And at first I'm like, should this even be here?
And they have a habit of that. And if you listen to their other albums, there's a couple of songs that kind of come out of nowhere and do take it back. They never really go forward and try to do anything like futuristic or that hasn't been done before, but they just all of a sudden will switch to like, there's one on A War on Everything where they almost break into like a funk groove out of nowhere. And it's just, it works as well, just like this does. But again, really good pick. Not the one that I picked for my shuffle, but again, you could have picked anything on this and I would agree with you to some degree.
Now, imagine if you will, because we were talking about Josie. Imagine taking Josie and Come Down. Josie being the second song on the disc, Come Down being the fourth. And swap their position. So you go from My Poor Heart to Come Down, and then to Everything Is All Right, and then to Josie, which kind of picks up a little bit again. I think Come Down fits a bit better after My Poor Heart. Maybe it's going from piano to keyboards, but I love the fact that it's a good mid-tempo bop. And I have a feeling this is one of those songs that I would really love to hear live just because of the consistency of the tempo and the groove all the way through.
And they are live mechanically like a watch. They're one of those bands that sounds exactly the same on stage as they do on tape, which is very, very rare, especially without a bunch of production, which they don't have. There's a lighting rig and that's it. You're not there. There's no jumping around. There's no fireworks. It's just the energy that they bring. And that energy is really on display in Come Down.
All right. For your shuffle pick, what did you go with?
For my shuffle pick, I definitely picked the one that was battling out with SOS for the spin, In My Blood. I think that song tells an amazing story, and the lyricism at work there is just incredible. I think it's one of the more well-written songs on the album, as well as one of the most catchy ones. It was a very close number 2, so it's In My Blood is the shuffle.
You're going to hate me for this.
Oh, God.
It's my skip.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And again, maybe it's the placement of the song, right? But there was a part in this song and it threw me off. And which is weird for me because you know me. I like Dream Theater. I like prog rock. I love, odd time signatures. I mean, hell, I've seen Rush, live. I've seen so many of these prog metal bands live, and it doesn't throw me off so much. But every now and then, a band will do something, and I'm just like, I don't know if I like it or not. Even Anthrax, and I freaking love Anthrax. Anthrax was the subject of our first ever episode of There Can Only Be One for a reason, for a freaking reason. But at the end of Stomp 442, there's a song called Bear, and it is almost an up-tempo ballad or a down-tempoed mid-tempo song. I don't know how you really want to describe it. And it's fine. It's good. It's okay. But then they get into this weird, what feels almost like a jam part. And then it goes back to that almost quiet part. And it felt off. So the same token as well. And I'm going to mention a movie. I guarantee you will like this film. And I guarantee you love the soundtrack. And I guarantee that I love the band I'm about to talk about, but this is one of those songs where I'm like, I'm out. The Last Action Hero soundtrack.
Oh my goodness.
I
do love that movie.
I do. Oh,
of course man. I love that movie.
Called it. And the soundtrack is absolutely fantastic with some of the biggest bands at that time on the disc. And one of my favorite bands of all time is Queensryche. But Real World rubs me the wrong way. And I think it's because of that Michael Kamen orchestral middle part of that song that does not jive with the rest of the song. And it's okay to love a band and then sit there and say, yeah, except for that one song. I think for this disc, and it's because of that almost like, it feels like a triplet tempo down with the drum solo part, and it's like,
yeah,
but and then all of a sudden it kicks back in because it's a fast song, and it almost feels like they did the breakdown, but they weren't ready for the breakdown, so they stumbled into it. And the fact that they did it twice means they meant to do it.
See, I kind of like it for that. I don't know. One of the things I have written down about loving about this song is the fact that it's kind of just all over the place, and it feels like they're just, running forward at full speed ahead. That's what it feels. This song feels like a train track, kind of like it just feels like nonstop momentum. I really love it, but I can see it. I can see where you're coming from. If you're not into timing switch ups or anything like that, I can totally see it not being your thing.
Yeah, I mean, I am into timings, but the fact that this album was written in under 2 weeks, like that,
crazy, right?
That's a sprint from start to finish to get this song, and that's the thing that. And maybe it's because I know that, because you do your research and then you go into listening to the album and you're like, okay, that squares. And it wasn't a triplet. It felt like an off time triplet, or like almost like a purposeful slow down of the tempo So the triplet feels off from the rest. Again, maybe it's just me being really music nerdy at the time.
Oh no, and it's true. And just like you said, it's when you know the fact that this was put together very quickly. All of their stuff was. For their latest album, Glory, the lead singer would actually post on Instagram stories of like pieces of paper with the lyrics scrawled on them, and he's like, "What I like this. Like, what do we think of this hook?" And like, you can almost see him put stuff together as they went, and then that album was produced lightning fast. So there is kind of a little bit of almost shotgun production, I guess, going on with some of these, especially the early ones, especially this one in particular.
Which is fascinating because when you listen to a song like Come Down, I'm like, this feels like they took some time in the production of it. My Blood feels like a live, raw, off the floor recording. And I'm not saying it's a bad song. It's just that of the 10 songs on this disc, that breakdown was the only reason why this is on my skip pick.
That's a fair point. Then this was the hardest part, obviously, for me. So,
all right. So now I'm all out of songs. What's your skip?
My skip is actually a quite fitting one because just like you went for your spin for the very first song, my skip is the very last song. So my skip is Thank You for Saying Goodbye. Already, you know this about me, not the biggest fan of really slow music. I don't know what it is. Just since I was a kid, I'm usually into the faster stuff, or at least something with like energy to it. I just feel like the slows way too down. I get it. It's like the final curtain call at the end, almost like the epilogue maybe, but I don't know. This is one of their weaker songs overall in the catalog, I think. Still really good because none of their stuff is bad, but I don't know. It doesn't vibe with me as well as everything else, and it's just a little bit too slow. I want the energy of stuff like Sawed Off Shotgun and In My Blood.
Yeah, I mean, how you land the plane, for lack of a better analogy, is got to be tough. I mean, you could put Everything Is All Right as the last song, and it would be, I think, a good way to end the album. But in the grand scheme of things, do you really want your single, your big number one single, to be the last song on the disc? I think rare is the time that the last song on a CD is the big single.
Yeah.
There's two albums that come to mind that I could sit there and say, yes, but The Division Bell from Pink Floyd, because High Hopes is the last song on that, and Queen's Innuendo, where The Show Must Go On is the last song on that disc, which is, oh dear God, that song is fantastic. Both of them are fantastic.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking in my head, I'm going through various notes right now. I know there's some albums where the last song is a good song.
Yes.
But like you said, I struggle to think of one where the final song on the track list is like the massive hit. You're right.
I mean, admittedly, neither of them were the first single released off of those albums. But I don't know where else you put Thank You for Saying Goodbye on this disc. That's
the thing, because this is the flow problem that I had actually, because it's almost like it was the odd one out, so it was like, okay, put it at the end, like just put it at the very end of it. Then they can, if you're not there by then, that's fine. Maybe, I don't know, but it feels like it's out of place no matter where it went, because every other song on this disc has so much energy to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one just turns it way down. And this is often one of the songs they play before their encore. This is usually the few times I've seen them, 2 out of 3 times, the final song they played before they like did the first wave goodbye and then came back out. This is the one. So, and I don't know, it doesn't give me the energy for the encore, like when this is over, it's just like, okay, yeah. Like when going into the encore, I want to be up on my feet, like ready, like, okay, what's coming next? You got 2 more. What are they going to be? This one kind of puts you in a somber mood almost.
See, and I kind of like when bands and artists actually do land the plane softly. I mentioned Queensryche already, so we're going to go down that road, right? You think about Rage for Order and ending the album with I Will Remember. You think about Empire and ending the album with Anybody Listening. You think about Promised Land and ending the album with Someone Else, or even Q2K and ending the album with Right Side of My Mind. yes, I know way too much about Queensryche, but here we are. But even an album like Man on the Line from Chris de Burgh, ending that album with Transmission Ends, which is gut-wrenching. That's that album. I don't know. And maybe if you take a song like Thank You for Saying Goodbye and you ring it out a little bit for a while.
Yeah.
And then you throw in a hidden track.
Yes. Now you're speaking my language. Yeah.
But, we can't go back and remake a 2017 album.
And I can't stress this enough. I wouldn't want to. Brett, any of the boys, if you're listening, I would not change a thing. Please do not take this as a slight.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I stress that when we say skip, it doesn't necessarily mean that the song is not good.
Bad. Yeah.
Yeah, it's you got to pick one song off of 10. It's the the hardest choice. One has to go.
Someone has to die.
Oh God, you've turned an album into like some weird TV show series finale or mid-season finale.
Oh God, yeah. Squid Games for music. Hey, there's an idea.
Don't tease me with a good time, dude.
Don't tease you with a good time, and don't give one of those reality TV networks any more ideas than we already have every time we usually do one of these.
Yeah, Netflix, stop listening right now. We know you're just going to cancel it after the first season anyway, so just stop.
It's going to make a bunch of money, but not as much as you wanted it to make, so you're going to shut it off.
Exactly. We wanted $1,700,000 and made $1,699,000. Canceled. Freaking Netflix. Okay, Lyle, please remind our listeners what your spin, shuffle, and skip picks are.
My spin was SOS, or Sawed Off Shotgun. My shuffle was In My Blood, and my skip was Thank You for Saying Goodbye.
And for me, my spin was My Poor Heart, my shuffle was Come Down, and my skip was My Blood. Lyle, thank you so much for this. Please remind our listeners where they can find you out there on the interwebs and what you've been up to over at 640 AM Toronto.
I was about to say you can find me on 640 Toronto, either on your radio dial if you're around the city, or more easy option, the iHeartRadio app. Me and Danny Stover talk about all the news of the day, and a podcast version is coming in the next couple of weeks. So if you Google us real soon, you'll be able to get on the first couple episodes of that.
All right, that is so awesome. And I'm hoping you don't torment her with here's an album. You pick one song.
Every once in a while, she does follow along with us too, and every once in a while she'll kind of whisper suggestions in my ear. She actually said that she didn't listen to much Hootie and the Blowfish. We recently did a Hootie and the Blowfish episode, and she said that I'm going to base my entire opinion on this band on that episode. So you better do it well, because I'm only going to listen to what you tell me to listen to.
That's awesome. That is awesome. All right, Lyle, thank you so much. And to you, our dear listeners, you guys know the drill. If there's an album that you want us to cover on Spin, Shuffle, Skip, or an artist that you want us to explain to Danny about what songs she should listen to, hit us up on social media at OnlyOneCast, or go to our website at notthatbadcast.com. And while you're there, make sure you check out our movie podcast, It's Not That Bad, because we watch bad movies, and I'm sure one day we will do Last Action Hero, because that qualifies. Until next time, he's Lyle, I'm Jay. You guys are awesome. This is Spin, Shuffle, Skip on the There Can Only Be One podcast channel, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Take care.
The Jeremiah Show is proudly featured on Pantheon Podcasts. Don't miss an exciting episode of The Jeremiah Show. You're invited to the world of pop culture, music icons, and food gods. Find Jeremiah at thejeremiahshow.com or on all social networks and back catalogs at Linktree, Jeremiah D. Higgins.
I am Miles Zuniga from Fastball.
And we are a girl named Tom.
Hi, I'm Marielle Hemingway.
Hi, this is Chef Melissa King from Top Chef All Stars.
Hi there, everybody. This is Ann H.
Hi, I'm Shadow Stevens. I'm having a great time on The Jeremiah Show, the greatest show in the history of the world.
The Jeremiah Show is brought to you by Evolve Entertainment Network, Pantheon Podcasts, and Radio Candy Media.
I do hope you enjoyed that interview. I'm sorry that Jeremiah is so hopeless. I did made a real effort to sort of get through the sludge and the drudgery and the cliches and the second-rate ideas. I hope I didn't disappoint you too much. And as far as Jeremiah, is concerned, do write in, because if you do, we can do something about this.